Yes, all right. Well, I am looking forward to today's conversation. But before we get started, because today is going to be a continuation of last week, so that we can get into some of the information that I found as it pertains into the Course in Miracles about what action is all about, because it's only mentioned 10 times, where beingness is mentioned like 388 times. So getting clear about who we are and what our purpose is really important to understand when we go into action and when what beingness is about. But before we get to that, I want to check in with some of you guys before the rest of the crew starts popping in. um, Kathy, from last week's conversation, what I'm sure some things were percolating in your mind. Any thoughts about what the course is, or what we shared here?
Yes. Again, thank you for having me.
Oh,
As you know, this is very new for my journey, but nothing surprising so far. I mean, I have been on this journey. I just haven't been using the Course in Miracles. So, I'm doing the daily practices, and I feel like it is opening me up. Have been moving through some challenges in the last month. Really, it's been about a month. Some really major transitions in my life that are bringing up a lot of fear. So that's what really called me to this. So, at this point, I'm still just really intending to be open, to these ideas, and releasing my fear is really what I'm here for. I want to release the fear and really recognize the beauty and power in everything that's showing up in my life. And I feel what you're sharing, what I'm reading, what I'm seeing is just complementing what my intended journey is. So far it's been beautiful, and I really am in a beautiful space. I have found this practice to be incredibly helpful, and just staying in the present moment. So
well, thank you so much for sharing that. It's beautiful to hear you say, that these fears are coming up, because that is uh, pretty much, I'm going to say, 95% of the work is facing our fears. And the other 5% is really giving ourselves permission to realize how we've blocked all the joy and the peace that we've always been looking for. So it's like that 5 minutes of going, oh, fuck, I've had it all along. I had the slippers on all this time. It was mine. And then the rest of the time is looking at the fears and making sure that we understand what they are, their purpose, because they do have a purpose, and what it is that we do to release them. And, the fears are nothing but blocks to what is already there. And once that concept makes sense, then the willingness to face them, the willingness to look at them, because that is what the Course wants us to do, is to look at the fears and say, I created you. You are my creation. I made you up. Even if I learned it from somebody else, because I'm projecting you, I am making you to be my reality. And once we have that comfortable relationship with the fear, then we can deal with the energies, the emotions that it activates. Because once you know the fear is yours, you don't run away from the fear. Then you can sit and be with the emotion. But most people can't handle the emotion. They run away from it and they never look at the fear. They cannot even fathom that they are the source of the fear, because fear is a thought that's in our mind.
right.
So to be able to accept that we can change our mind about things and shift and lift to a higher frequency out of fear and into love, then we can be with the emotions, the sense of I'm going to die in the body, the tightness of breath, the discomfort. But all of those things happen in stages, and one of the most important ones is the willingness to face the fear.
Mm.
And that's obviously requires incredible spiritual maturity to get to that point. And the Course in Miracles then is showing us how to face the fear, how to understand the fear, until such time that we are prepared to understand that they're not real.
Right.
And by they're not real, it means they have no reality except for the one that we give it. You don't go to the store and buy a can of fear. And there's not a fear tree in the yard. So it's not a creation. It is simply an interpretation that if we cease to believe it, it ceases to exist. Therefore, it ceases to have reality. So only kept real inside of our mind. And if we think about our mind as a movie projector projecting out there what we believe so we can have an experience of it, the fear is only real because it's in the movie reel in here. You remove it from the movie reel, then it's nowhere. It ceases to be. So thank you for your willingness to play with Course in Miracles and fears.
You are
Yay.
so welcome.
I haven't found anything that gave me the ability to experience a quicker shift and a smoother and more permanent ability to enter into peace, to
Right.
remain in that peaceful place than the Course in Miracles um, teachings.
I would say one thing that's been really powerful for me is recognizing that when I'm making a shift in the present moment, I have this projection of what it's going to mean in the future. And it does not necessarily mean that. It's like really, for me, being able to release that fear is releasing this idea that, because I move in this direction, it's going to create this, or, and really just always coming back to the present moment and trusting what I'm receiving right here and right now is all there is, and not getting caught up in what it might mean, for my marriage, what it might need for my kids, all of those kind of things. So that has been something that's been very powerful for me too.
That's wonderful. And if your mind wants to wonder because it's trained into doing that, give it this to hold on to, which is the promise that the Course in Miracles is giving us. Once we stop operating from fear and trying to control the world and plan, what arises is God's plan, and God's plan is that we experience perfect happiness. That's the guarantee is, and of course that means peace, means joy, whatever you want to call it, but it also includes a deeper, greater connection with all beings, which means it does strengthen every single one of our relationships, even with the ones where people will leave our experience. I after my divorce from Ken and my practice with A Course in Miracles, we may not be together, but I adore him as much as I did then. It strengthened my ability to reconnect to him, even though it didn't from him to me. But that feeling that you learn how to love fully, that is the promise. That is what perfect happiness is. You love all beings, you're one with all of them, so of course you're going to enjoy the heck out of your life, and it's going to be peaceful because you won't be at odds with anybody else. So let yourself hold on to that. That is a promise, that is a certainty that the ego doesn't want us to believe is possible. So it's one thing to live in the present moment, but it's and not plan a future, but it's another thing to live in the present moment, knowing that your future is guaranteed. With when we are doing God's will, it is guaranteed that happiness and joy and peace will be our mighty companions always, because it's who you become. So you take it with you.
Love that. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, who else wants to do a quick little check-in, and then we'll get into the lesson. Just unmute yourself.
Good morning. It's Vern.
Good morning, Vern.
I've got a video problem, so I will not be joining you in picture form. So we get just use the audio. But yeah, I had an interesting experience on last Sunday. I don't know if you know this or not, but due to some circumstances beyond other people's control, I was forced to begin looking for a new place to dwell. And so when I was informed of that, because of the house being sold, I got pretty upset about a number of different things. It all happened just like all at once. Bam, 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 bam. And being as proactive as I normally am, I started looking and just couldn't find anything that even made me feel even close to wanting to go into. And then on Sunday morning, I kind of woke up and I decided to just get centered and clear and see if I could not just let things happen on their own. I did spend about 30 minutes getting very, very clear about what I desired, without any limitations on that. In other words, instead of saying, well, here's what I would be satisfied with, or I could just find this, this, and this, I just let go of all of that. And I went in and I got a call right in the middle. I was actually was at the Course of Miracles at Unity North and the live meeting, and got a call about a potential. I called the lady back, and I went right up. She wanted this, if I could come and take a look at it after church. I said I could. So I went in and I pulled up this place. It's off of Jemison Road. It's a beautiful place. I pulled in, and this little Vietnamese lady came down, which is really interesting because I still remember a little Vietnamese, not a whole lot, but just enough, and we connected and visited for about an hour because I wanted to get very, very clear, and then went down and she showed me the place, and she's just had it all redone, all hardwood floors. It's more than what I wanted, way beyond more than what I wanted. I've got a nice backyard. She's a gardener. Her whole front of her house is a garden. The whole back of the house is a garden. Got a nice deck. I got everything I wanted, and then some. I mean, beyond even what I wanted. And that's kind of, and it just happened, and we made a commitment, and I'm going to be moving in there on the 1st. So things are just accelerating with that. I was so relieved in a sense, but then realizing that to not just limit myself to what I can have, basically really, really clear about what I wanted. And the biggest thing was for me, again, was how do I want to feel when I'm in the space? That was the final definition. How do I want to feel when I'm in the space? And that helped opened up a lot of letting go of a lot of old stuff. Seeing her, some of I was in the service during Vietnam, and it brought back some interesting feelings. And when she knew that I had been a veteran there, and so it was kind of a little healing that went on too, pretty fast. But I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a fantastic opportunity, and she's very, very nice. And I'm kind of looking for that's good for me. Unfortunately, it's going to upset my scheduling now for the next probably 2 weeks before I can do anything at all. I'm just, you got to do the packing and you got to do the sorting, and I'm going to get rid of stuff. I have finally decided it's clean house. Even if I've got a pen or a pencil or an eraser or something that's sitting there not being used by anything, it's going. I'm getting rid of every single thing. If I haven't touched or used it in the last year, it is gone.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that's what's going on with me.
Well, that's a beautiful, beautiful share. Thank you. We celebrate that with you. And you know what? Things are accelerating for those who are clear, for those who are ready to receive and are willing to get the lessons quickly like that. We are going to encounter the right people, the right places, the right circumstances that are going to activate opportunities for cleansing. We literally are cleansing our field, and sometimes just being in the presence of somebody who is a reminder of something traumatic from the past, just being in their presence, when we are clear, we are one, we are, you're my brother, you're my sister, you're here to help me release. I don't need to know what it was. I don't need to spend time thinking about it. I just am feeling a release, and there's a massive acceleration for those who are ready for that. So very cool. Thank you. Congratulations. And of course, I'm not surprised. As the Course says, we're entitled to miracles. So there you have it. There you have it.
I just want the physical location is a big part of it. I mean, the little physical location. At this point in time, I'm living in right off the Johnson Ferry and very close to the bridge there that goes into, and it's a space that's kind of off away from everything. And that was big for me. It was a big thing, but I just wanted to add that.
And a beautiful garden. I'm a gardener, so
Yeah.
I'm excited for you.
Well, I'm going to stay away from it because I've got a brown thumb.
Well, it sounds like she can handle it.
Oh,
So
yeah,
you enjoy it. You
I hope
enjoy
so.
it. Thank you so much for that share.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, let's go ahead and let's get right into we're going to do a continuation from where we were last time. And if somebody will put it in the chat, I would appreciate it. So what we are going to do, I keep freezing. Is this happening? Can anybody else see that my screen is freezing? So Dondra is asking in the chat. So in case it's not just me, that way she will know. So if nobody else sees me freezing, just put that in. Okay, very cool. So Dondra, it may just be with your internet for now. Mine definitely does act up. So I can totally accept that has happened here. So I want to do a quick little reminder that the Healing Relationships 6-week workshop is going to start on June the 28th. It's a Monday night. It's going to go for 6 weeks. I've got quite a few people already signed up. So if you want to join, be sure to either let me know separately so I can send you a link, or I put it on Facebook. It's going to go out in my newsletter later today so that you can access it. But what I'm going to focus on those relations in that particular healing is we're going to look at the Course in Miracles and in its process for forgiveness. We're going to forgive 2 personal relationships, whether they're alive or people who've passed away, doesn't matter. We are going to also forgive our body. We're going to have a part of this forgiveness that the Course teaches us. We have to forgive ourselves with the relationship that we've created with our body, made our body so important and made our body be who we think we are. Also, the fears with the body, fear of death, fear of sickness, all of those things need to be looked at. We're going to heal a relationship with an external authority figure. It doesn't matter who that is. It could be a president that maybe you didn't like. It could be a terrorist that is stuck in your mind as somebody that created pain. It could be a situation like maybe somebody who was in the military and somebody that you loved was sent and they perished. Who was that general? So you will think it's going to come up naturally. We're also going to heal our relationship with God. The Course tells us that the final obstacle that we all have to face, and there is no way around this, is we all have a secret fear of God. It has to be addressed. So we're going to attempt to enter into that discomfort, that separation, and begin the process of healing that, because to ascend, you cannot ascend if you have things holding you down. Think of ascension as a hot air balloon. You are going to climb higher the more weights you drop. And the weights that we're dropping have to do with guilt, with shame, with resentments. Those things are anchors in the old energy. To release those anchors, we have to face them, and face them with a really wonderful process. And again, we're going to use it all from the Course in Miracles, so you'll see how that works. All right, so what we're going to focus on right now, and again, if somebody will write this in the chat, we are in chapter 1. And inside of chapter 1 in the text, so make sure you write chapter 1 in the text, we are in section number 6, the illusion of needs. And in the illusion of needs, I'm going to just read up until the point where we left off. It's only a couple of sentences so that we all tie everything together so that we can start from there. Because last week, we had a wonderful conversation about, the border and things like that. And I'm going to share something about that. Actually, let me share about that before we get into this. So I get people who watch these videos online, and they were not present with us, but they'll watch them and then they'll message me. And I had somebody who sent me a message, and they said, Laina, I was so surprised that you said you would close the border. and they were like, you're spiritual and you voted for Bernie, and or that's who I cared for a very long time. And I said, well, the reason I would close the border is because it's just like our spiritual journey. Most people operate on the surface. We want to get happy. We want the crystal to heal us. We want somebody to heal us. We want things to shift and feel good. We typically operate on the surface of things when the ego is the one in charge of the healing. But when you want to go to the deeper part of the healing, what you're facing is the ego itself, which means you've got to get to the root of the problem. We have all been conditioned, and it's easy because we're all spiritual people. It's easy to as a spiritual person care about other people because we understand we're all one. It's easy to care about the planet because we understand it's we're one with it. What is not so easy is to be willing to look at how did that problem get started in the first place. And we are very, very conditioned politically to look at the surface. Let's open this, let's close that, let's send some money here, stop the money going there. Very surface, which is, again, what we tend to do when we're on a spiritual journey and we are not diving as deep as the Course is inviting us to go. So the reason I would close the border is because I would want to go deep. To go deep, we need to go look at the root of the problem. So we can't leave things open until you understand what the problem is, because we have to understand how did all this happen. And we talked about this in our in last week's conversation, so I'm not going to go into that again. But at the root of every single problem that humanity is facing, there is an egoic component, and that is always going to be found when you begin to follow greed. It's just very simple. In the Old Testament, I'm talking 4,000 years ago, it was written, you cannot worship two masters. You got to pick one. And there's only two options, God or money. Very simple back then, very simple, because the human mind, when it gets conditioned into believing that it is separate and it's got to fend for itself, in survival mode, it is always about what can I get to take care of me. And if you get into positions of power and you begin to get and accumulate, and you see that this power now gives you permission to do a lot of things, maybe things nobody knows that you're doing, there is a lot that you will do, and it doesn't matter what it is. You totally, completely move into those places of narcissism, of being a psychopath, being a sociopath, being a crazy person. We've never seen a dictator that anybody here has said, oh my God, what a wonderful person. We want them to be the dictator of every single place. When you get to those places of power, the ego will stop at nothing to continue to amass for itself what makes it have a sense of worth. And the ego's worth, instead of being self-worth, gets attached to net worth. So the reason I would close the border is because I would want to get to the root of why is it open in the first place? Why would people be suffering? Where is the money coming from? Who's getting the money? If those things are not investigated, my spiritual egoic self would be really happy with closing the border or opening the border, making sure everybody comes in. And my mind would tell me, my ego mind would tell me, oh, I did the right thing. But what my ego wouldn't let me do is go pay attention to who is suffering because of that decision. And that is what we need to get to go deep into the healing that the Course in Miracles wants us to experience. We have to go down to the root of the suffering. And if they're suffering, somebody's benefiting from that. There is no suffering that happens on the planet that there isn't somebody benefiting from it. We willingly don't put ourselves in places to suffer. The suffering comes because we put ourselves in dangerous position, thinking somebody is going to be helping us, thinking it's going to be better for us. And it turns out to be a trap, because where there is a victim, there is a bully. And if you don't hold your power, your strength, your awareness of who you are, and you slide into that victimhood, and it's sliding into victimhood, where you let somebody else take care of you, the minute you enter into a relationship where you need somebody to take care of you and their intentions are not loving, there will be a victim that will have a bully, that will have an oppressor, and nobody oppresses another unless they get something out of it. And when you're in positions of power, the something that you get has to do with money. So I would close the border because I want to stop the victimizing that takes place until I get to the root of who is the perpetrator. I can't even say the word. Who is the one who is benefiting from the suffering of another? And spiritual people really have got to get that we cannot just want things to be fluffy on the surface, because as within, so without. If we settle for fluffy on the outside, we're settling for fluffy surface on the inside. And the Course says all of us are one. So our brothers and sisters are depending on us diving deep, because if we don't go dive deep and free ourselves from the enslavement that we are under our ego's control, we cannot free humanity that is enslaved from the control of what appears to be nefarious authority figures. It's one and the same, one and the same. And when we get that, as within, so without, as above, so below, what you are doing for you, you must be willing to do for another. So I wanted to share that because I got into that conversation with that other person about that. And it was such a rich conversation that by the time we were done, it made sense to her why I was in that place. But it is really a matter of how deep are you willing to go. And what is happening in the world today, the systems that are crumbling because we've been looking at them for what they give us on the surface, not what goes on behind the curtain. And the curtain is being pulled, and we are going to be seeing a lot of things that have been happening behind the curtain that are not nice. And they've been happening because we've been busy, we've been distracted with the surface stuff. So there is a time that we are going to have to face that what happened outside is a reflection of our not paying attention to what was going on inside of us. So anyways, so to the illusion of needs, this is a perfect segue, because when we understand the illusion of needs, we will understand why we've been kept on the surface, because we are believing some things have more value than others. And until we value inner peace and oneness and liberty for all beings, freedom for all beings, we are going to be operating with an illusion of needs, not with the real needs that we came to this planet to experience, which was the need for us to come collectively together to create heaven on earth. But we've been distracted by selfish motivation. Just focus just on you, focus just on your family. That's why we get so divided. Americans don't operate in community like our ancestors did, where families really took care of each other generationally. So let me read Illusions of Need, that paragraph, so we can get to where we're going to start today, which is going to be sentence 9. So let me quickly read those 8 sentences. You who want peace can find it only by complete forgiveness. No learning is acquired by anyone unless he wants to learn it and believe in some way that he needs it. While lack does not exist in the creation of God, it is very apparent in what you have made. It is, in fact, the essential difference between them. Lack implies that you would be better off in a state somehow different from the one that you are in. Until the separation, in quotes, which is the meaning of the fall, in quotes, nothing was lacking. There was no needs at all. Needs arise only when you deprive yourself. So when you look at the state of the world today, and so many are deprived, why are so many billions of people deprived on this planet? Why does the middle class of America continue to erode? Why is the lower class, the poor class, why is that growing by leaps and bounds? Well, because we believe in hierarchy of needs. We believe that some get it and some don't. We have been sold the idea of lack, that there's not enough. that you got to work hard for yours. And if you don't have the right education, you can't get it. All of these things are just programmings in the mind. The mind has been so conditioned into believing that somebody else gets to have it, but we don't. The bulk of humanity, I'm going to say probably 99%, has settled for less, for very little actually, because we're here as unlimited beings. There should be no limit to what we experience. Our income should grow exponentially through our joy of what we're doing, because it would impact more people. The happier you are, the more people want a piece of what it is that you are offering. So why do we have ceilings on things like income? Why are there ceilings on people who get to eat? Why are there ceilings on people who get housing? Why is there ceilings on people who get uh, medical care, well-being? Why is there ceiling on people who receive benefits of uh, you know, oh, I can't remember the name of it. Anyways, pensions. Why is there such a limit in a world that was created by a God that is unlimited? Well, it's because we have bought into that. So back to the border. Why is there so much suffering? Because of the border. Why are so many people trying to leave one place to go to another? Why is one place more appealing than another? Why are some people being brought here that don't want to be brought here, but they're sold here because it creates money for somebody else? All of those things have to be looked at, because if we don't pay attention to where suffering happens, we will not be able to find the root cause of our ego mind. Because the ego, the Course in Miracles tells us, is rooted in suffering. The goal of the ego is that we experience death while we are alive. Not only are we terrorized with death, not knowing we're going to go to hell, because our mind gets filled with this after we die, there's this horrible place to go to. But while we're here, the ego is busily operating in killing us, in creating death while we're alive. And the way that looks is depression, is fear, is sadness, is total and complete dissatisfaction with life. So and we've all been conditioned into this. If you don't make the money, you feel bad because you don't make it, and you feel depressed because you didn't achieve it. If you make the money, you feel bad because you might lose it, and you're worried that somebody might take it, or you're worried that somebody's with you because of the money. So either way, the ego has us never being satisfied with not having or having. It's a constant, never enough. That's why people who acquire need to have more. They need to have more. We've never heard of a single millionaire who's ever written a book and said, oh, this is the magic number. When you get to this number, this number of millions, then you're happy. No, because when you get to that number of millions, then you want more. Then you start comparing yourself. At no millions, you hung out with these people. At 10 million, you hang out with these people. But when you get here, you find out that there's a group that's at 50 million. And then you want to go hang out with those. So there's the constant seeking and searching and striving. Well, all of that arises from a need that is not there, that comes from a sense of lack inside. Again, God did not create it. So now let's start with sentence number 9. But to get us to sentence number, I want to repeat 8. Needs arise only when you deprive yourself. Before the fall, there was no deprivation. What is the fall? We drop down in consciousness. That's what the fall is. We eat of the tree of good and evil. That's what the fall is. Instead of operating in the goodness, that all is God, because we didn't have people who raised us knowing that all is God and all is good and all is oneness. We didn't know that. We get conditioned and we drop down into selfishness. When we drop into selfishness, the mind gets trained. Only one kid is going to be the valedictorian. Only, one kid gets to be the prom queen. Only one kid gets to be the captain of the football team. Only one kid gets to do this, that, or the other. Because we are conditioned in operating in hierarchy, one gets to the top and it's a pyramid. We have really truly believed that some of us fell, that some of us are at the bottom and we have to work our way up. Corporate America, one CEO, everybody's at the bottom. You see it. It's pyramids all the way through. Military, one at the top, pyramid at the bottom. So we fell from our knowledge it's like we dropped in our mind, we dropped from our knowledge, crown chakra, connection to God, dropped into the lower chakras, connection to the physical world, not the earth. That's a different, when our chakras are operating at their optimal, in balance, optimal level, connection with the earth is one thing. I'm talking about dropping into the world the ego has made, which is a world of solidity, of separation, of haves and have nots, and of a bunch of information that is not true, that clogs up our lower three chakras with misinformation, unprocessed energy, unprocessed emotions, and a lot of rage, a lot of angst that blocks us from being able to hear our intuitive knowingness. So all of those false needs that we have been taught, the illusion of needs arises because we're operating from our base chakras that are filled with misinformation. Handed down, hand me down beliefs, handed down generation after generation from those who were unconscious and did the best that they could to climb the corporate ladder. What we're doing with the Course in Miracles is hand me down beliefs, but these are from our ancestors, the ones that really know, like Jesus, like the teachings that so many of us have studied from the indigenous. There is so much truth from ancestors, but we have the conscious ancestors and we have the unconscious ancestors. And humanity right now operates primarily from the unconscious ancestors, what our grandmother and parents taught us to do. And notice how the unconscious ancestors make fun of the conscious ancestors, those uncivilized people who live in the woods, with little rags around their weenies. Oh, how uneducated are they? How, uncivilized are they? Well, it's kind of funny when you enter this journey, you begin to realize that externals have nothing to do with being civilized or not. The most uncivilized people are some of the most educated people that I know, best dressed people that I know, while these indigenous people that may have different looking ways of being, that maybe never even take a bath, are the most civilized because they have found within themselves the heart of God. And they operate from that, and they don't care what the external looks like. That's not what they're concerned with. While the civilized people, all they care about is how they look on the outside. Have you ever watched the Kardashians? Well, that's what that is, like the height of civilization and success. That's what we think is important. So sentence number 9. You act according to the particular order of needs you establish. So every single decision that we make about what is important, we are the ones who have established that. And this is part of the discomfort of this journey, is coming to the place of realization that every thought that you believe, especially when you're an adult, every thought that you believe is establishing an order of needs. I need you to be loyal to me so that I can feel the need of safety fulfilled. And if I feel the safety fulfilled because I need you, Jerry Maguire, you complete me. I need you. I need to be safe. If I'm safe, then I need to make sure things are in a certain way, and I need you to come in at a certain time and do this, do that. That way I can feel like I'm okay. Well, we have to question every single belief, because all of the egoic traps that we're in through our attachments, through our self-identification with things, all follow a hierarchy of needs that our ego has created. And we've got to get really honest about that, because there is nothing that you believe that you need that it is not within your control to change. You can release those needs. You can shift things into less need, which is a loosening up of attachments. And that happens, again, with a lot of honesty. Sentence number 10 says, this in turn depends on your perception of what you are. Well, if your need is, I need you to be happy so that I can feel safe, it's because I believe that I am not the source of my own safety. I believe that it's not possible for me to experience safety on my own. So the mind has to be corrected because the ego's telling me I'm not okay without you. So I need you, which means I got to control you. Otherwise, if you do whatever you want to do and it messes up my safety, then I'm not going to be happy with you. So we've got to realize that all of our insecurities come from a place of lack of awareness of the truth of who we are. So back to the border. So Vern, your question was the question that keeps on giving. So back to the border. Why are there people with needs at the border? Why does anybody need to come to another country? Now, granted, we're not talking about that. God created no borders. If we all operated from that, we wouldn't have borders and we all would get along and nobody would cheat anybody. But why are people needing to leave their country? Why is that happening? Well, because at some level, they don't feel like they can be safe there. Well, we need to look at that as a humanity. Why is somebody not feeling safe being in their country? We can't just point the finger. Oh, it's a bad leader. We got to get to the root of it. How did that happen? That is one of the beautiful things about being one of the most powerful superpowers in the world, is that if we used our might in a conscious way, we would help countries heal within themselves. We would bring about the tools for compassion, for learning, but we are a country that operates at such a deficit of soul. This America is running on empty of soul and spirit. And by that, I'm talking about primarily the leadership, the government. What we see, what we have, not all, the bulk of it operates in total and complete disconnection from we the people. So right there, you know that they don't see oneness. So if they don't experience oneness, they're not connected to the source. So again, you got to work backwards on these things and you begin to see what has happened. So we can't have an empty country trying to tell another country that's got issues what to do. It's not going to work. So we've got to go deeper and look through those layers and peel back and find out what is it that we're believing about ourselves that causes us to do what we're doing, no matter where we are. So you go into paragraph number 2. A sense of separation from God is the only lack you really need correct. This sense of separation would never have arisen in you if you had not distorted your perception of truth and had thus perceived yourself as lacking. We could do an entire day just looking at that. What is God? What are we? How do those two get separated? Well, it's very simple. We got conditioned from the time that we were little that God was outside of us on a cloud somewhere waiting to see if we were naughty or nice. We've grown with a dread of God, with a fear of God. Yes, we sang this little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. But we are told from a very young age, well, your light's not so bright because you're a sinner, or there's something wrong with you, or who do you think you are? You don't think Allah is going to love a lowly person like you. You think that you're worthy of that? You better bow down to the superpower in the sky. So we have been conditioned. The mind has been filled with information that causes us to believe in hierarchy. It started innocently enough when mom and dad were placed as above us. That's why we were given the program, us baby boomers, we were given the show Father Knows Best to program our mind into believing that there is a parental figure that knows better. And then we were given the signs that we put in the house that says, if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. So our minds get conditioned to believe that other people have power. And if they're not happy, then nobody's going to be happy, which disempowers us because, of course, we want to give our power away because as little children, we don't want to get in trouble. That then gets moved along into, Vern, I'll come to you in a second. That gets moved along then into school where the teacher has power. Then, of course, that translates into the boss having power. Then the government has power. Our Social Security, our safety depends for the later years in the government. There's always somebody who has more power than we do. Even in beautiful traditions like Buddhism and Hinduism that speak of reincarnation, that speak of source, not a God per se, even though Buddha and Krishna have been pretty much turned into gods, there is still, without deliberate intent, a lack of understanding that that power is the life force that each and every one of us carries within us. So we haven't created a relationship with God because we don't know what God is. We've been told God is not what something that is not accurate about God. And then have created God an authority figure that then matches up with all the other human authority figures. So God is given a personal way of describing it, kind of like a father. So the father authority out there, the male authority that we have been under, then we are taught to believe that this God is going to punish us if we don't do the right thing, if we don't do what we're supposed to do. So back to this question is, a sense of separation from God is the only lack you really need to correct. If we understand what God is, we correct that lack, that separation. There is no separation. There's none. So if the creator source is the creative source is inside of us and it created everything, don't you think it's going to help us create for our heart's desires? Well, to be able to get to the place that we're creating from our heart's desires, we need to become pure of heart, which means we need to purify our mind, get rid of the beliefs that go against what is true about God, and then align with God so that we're operating in tandem. Yes, Vern, go ahead. Unmute yourself, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to say something. It was interesting when you went back and revisited, especially the comments that you got from other people about your position, about the boundaries or the what's going on at the border. You know, it's and I really got hit with it just at like 10 minutes ago, like alongside the head with a board. It was like, it's like the geographical cure for relationships. In other words, when people are unhappy where they're at and things are not going well in their life and they decide they're going to move someplace else, and they think by going to a different place, they're going to, you know, encounter something totally different. Of course, they're going to take their victimhood with them wherever they go. And when you said that about what level, in other words, if I see the people in I was going to say Cambodia, I'm going flashbacks here. If I see the people that are coming across the border, if I see them only as victims, am I going to enable them to move away from where they're at, where all their opportunities of growing and becoming sovereign and all the things that we want for everybody else? Am I going to actually enable them to not go through that experience? And that's a whole different rationale as to why we're doing what we're doing. I mean, if you're going to look at it from that level, if you play at that highest level and you looked at them as that they're not victims, they've created an experience in their life that they're living in where they're at. If the only answer they have is to run away from it or get away from it without trying to do anything. And the only reason I bring that up is because just recently, I think it wasn't Venezuela, it was one of the other countries where did Harris just go? She went down there, and anyway, the president of Guatemala came on and he says, we don't want your money. We don't want your aid. We want you to help us develop our country. We want you to help us resolve the issues where they're at right here and now. And that, I mean, when I heard, you know, that to me is so powerful, because it seems to me almost all the issues we've been talking about is either you stay where you're at, in a sense, where the opportunity of real growth is at, or you run away and then recreate it someplace else. And being able to stop for a second and have that understanding. I think a lot of people that don't understand why you might say, you know, keep the borders closed, is that could be one of the most loving, caring positions. If you can look at these people that are going through this from that level, from a different level. And I think a lot, you know, that to me is, again, sovereignty. You know, we want it for everybody, not just for ourselves, for everybody. But you don't, It goes back to my total freedom demands total responsibility. And if we enable people to continually not deal with the issues where they're at. Now, here's the big deal. It's not either or, it's both and. We do need to have healthy borders. We do need to have a policy that's set in place for people who want to move and come into the country and join what we're doing. But the other part of it is that we need to help people, support people to heal where they're at, to address what they've done.
Yeah.
And if we don't do that, all we're doing is we're bringing more and more people, more and more victims into the country. So you're really not doing a service to anybody by doing that. Yeah. And I just, I'm rambling a little bit, but that just really hit me right between the eyeballs here. That's because I never considered that.
Yeah. Well, and thank you for that comment. We have to consider it. That's why on the airplane, we put the oxygen mask on our face first.
Yep.
And when we have issues like something at the border, this country is not prepared to help anybody. This country is divided. This country is in a mess. This country is corrupt. This country is bankrupt. We are in no position to be a leader. And right now, there is a shifting where we are going to begin to really truly see those who are leaders who are going to be rising versus those who are dictators, and they're going to be falling. And once that gets settled, we are going to, and it's going to take a while, but it's going to be settled, because we can't move forward where we are moving in terms of the evolution of humanity without that naturally happening. There is a clear distinction between those who are going to live in sovereignty, but in sovereignty because we have come to end the separation with God inside of us. Once you end the separation with God in you, that love in you knows that you are seeing God everywhere else. Every being is a carrier of God. It's not just me, which our spiritualized ego and our religious ego gets all, oh yeah, I'm the special one. I'm the only priest. I'm the only pope. I'm the only, blah, blah, blah. Once we see our equality, that humbleness, from that place, we want to help all beings. No one would be, we wouldn't tolerate a single person suffering, but we wouldn't be disconnected with the distractions that we are given to numb ourselves from the real, the suffering that is prevalent on the planet. We don't know what our brothers and sisters are experiencing because we are only listening to sound bites. Very few go below the surface to find out what's really going on. That's what's arising, what's going on. But all of it stems from our lack of awareness of the truth of who we are. Each and every one is a holy being. So there is not a single one among us that should be in charge of dictator, controlling anybody on this planet. No politician should be in charge of anything that doesn't comprise a council of the citizens at many different levels. Every single committee that has something to do with American people should include in those committees the very people that would be affected by it. Any policy that has to do with the homeless should include homeless people on the council. It should be absolutely a given. And that arises naturally from one who is connected, who realizes, well, I can't make a decision for you, brother, if you're not here to tell me what it is that is in your best interest. But our minds are not there yet. We're still in the process of clearing up. But while we're believing in hierarchy is because some of us think, we've made ourselves gods. I know it all. I'm the special one. And one of the issues that we have in this country that we're correcting is that our president is not smarter than the rest of us. And our medical person, who the president appoints, is not smarter than all the other doctors. And that our person in charge of the military is not smarter than all the other people in the military. So we have got to get comfortable with the idea that it is not going to work to have a leader, one at the top and then the rest at the bottom. It has to be by councils. And we are moving in that direction. But until then, we can't get there until we own who we are, so that we are the ones who demand that all voices be heard. So back to this in paragraph number 2, sentence number 2, this separation from God could never have arisen if we had not distorted our perception of truth and had thus perceived yourself as lacking. The truth of who we are is that we're a powerful creator. We were created in the image of God. God imagined us. That's why we're made in its image. It imagined us. And if you think of the word imagine, it's a magi, it's a magician. We are magicians. We can create anything. We've got a magic wand. And I forget her name. Scoble-Shin, Florence Scoble-Shin. She wrote a book that said, "My word is my wand." Well, in the beginning was the word. Our thoughts create our reality. Our thinking is our word. Are our words consistent with the words of a creator? Or do we walk around talking about, oh, God, help me. God, please take me out of my suffering. There's not enough. Look at what they got. They've got, they get it, but I never do. Our word is our wand, and we're constantly creating experiences because we have been conditioned to believe that we should settle for limited thinking. Because we didn't know any better. You have to have conscious people with unlimited thinking to raise you with that level of thinking. It's like when my children, my daughter, 8 years older than my birth son, I was already an unconscious parent with her, and there was so much in her mind that was very limited. With Spencer, though, I was raising him, wanting to raise him more conscious because I was becoming aware what was going on. And I remember one time I said to him, he also has an adopted brother who slid into the middle. So when Spencer and Tony came home from school one time, Lauren, I don't know, she was maybe 12 years old, and 12, 13, something like that. Spencer and Tony come home from school. It's elementary school. They didn't have a whole lot of homework. But anyways, they basically said, "Mom, we want to go ride our bikes." And I said, "Do you have homework?" And they said, "Yes." And Lauren's listening to me. Lauren is a child who grew up, you are not going to play till you get your homework done. And I said to Tony and Spencer, "Okay, well, how much homework do you have to do? And how much time do you think it's going to take?" "Oh, it might take us 30 minutes. "All right, so you can go play and go ride your bikes. That's perfectly okay. But make sure you allow enough time when you get back so that you have those 30 minutes to get your homework done before we have dinner." Lauren went ballistic on me. She said, "Mom, you never let me have a choice like that. You never let me go play. I always had to sit here and get my homework done, and I couldn't leave the house until my homework was done. How come they get to go out and play and have fun, and then they get to do their homework?" And I said, first thing I said to her, "Well, I'm sorry. I raised you the wrong way. Sorry, I'm correcting things. You were my guinea pig. You're the first. I didn't know what I was doing with you. So you get more money for therapy. This is why I did this." If they do what they want to do, they're taking responsibility for their choices. And if they're taking responsibility for their choices, they'll get things done when they are feeling empowered to get it done. And in the beginning, they would play and forget about the homework. And then it's okay. We got to dinner, homework wasn't done. Now there's absolutely no television. You can't play afterwards. It's homework time. Well, that happened about 3 or 4 times until they self-corrected and realized that if they were going to have the fun of playing, they also and have the responsibility to choose what they wanted to do, they had to also complete what they said that they would do in the order that they said that they would do it. But it was coming because they made the choice. So anyways, eventually Lauren got it. And I switched things with her as well. But by then she was so programmed to get her homework done. She would come home and she would get it done. And then she would have very little time to play because she became a perfectionist. My fault. Again, she gets more money for therapy. But it's something that happens when you call forth the creator inside of us. It will create, it will know what to do when it is given permission to choose. So we need to realize that we're not lacking creativity, we're just not using it. We're not lacking abundance, we're just not tapping into it. We are not lacking well-being, we're just not accepting what has been given to us. So what we are experiencing is the lack of that. not because it is not there, but it is a block to it, which means it's there, just compartmentalized somewhere else. So we have to train our minds and listen. In this lifetime, we may not tap into all of our abundance because I don't know that, it depends on how willing we are to clear our minds. Kathy, I think I saw you raise your hand. Please unmute.
Yes, so in the example that you're giving with your kids, the question comes to me, so you're saying you raised her wrong, it was your fault. So, I'm really feeling into accepting it all and knowing that everything is divinely perfect in the way that it shows up. So where does that come into play? It's like the experience that Lauren had was exactly perfect for her.
Absolutely. Perfect comment. So now I'm being playful with you about it. At that time, I was definitely at a place where I carried a lot of guilt for what I had laid on her. And it wasn't until later on that Lauren and I had some conversations where she was able to see that the way that she was raised was really truly perfect for her. She needed that discipline. She said, Mom, if I had not had that discipline, I don't know that I would have operated at the level that she began to operate at. Very, very determined, and she follows her list. So yes, everything is actually perfect because had I not done with her what I did, she would not have seen the contrast that now that she's a mother, we have conversations about how she wants to raise her child. And these were conversations that started when she was pregnant. She said, Mom, I really want to raise Ryder in the way that you raised the boys. Not with the rigidity that I had, but that served me. So, and I said to her, you know what? Don't make a decision today. Why don't you feel what Ryder needs? And that was like, oh, wow. So instead of this or that, I could maybe do a combination. Yeah, feel for what Ryder needs. So, yes, everything is perfect if we choose to use it as information. How did this serve me? The Course says everything is a lesson God would have us learn. There is absolutely nothing that has gone wrong, nothing. I just added my humor in there and the therapy, and we just laughed about that. But I do not, once I learned to forgive myself, because that's part of the process, I forgave myself because I had to go through a healing journey of why did I treat my daughter that way? Well, I had to go back to it's because that's how I was raised. So I had to forgive my parents and the rigidity that I grew up with, and I had to forgive my needing to please my parents, show them what a great mom I was, because look, I broke my child and made her be a perfect student. She was always on the dean's list and high achieving. Well, I had to make peace with a lot of what I did to her. Wasn't because I loved her and I wanted her to succeed. It was because I loathed me and I needed me to look like a good mom. So when you begin to peel back the layers and you come in here and you really get to the root of the what is lacking inside of us, we control others to make us look good. That's just the way the ego operates, because it operates from lack. I don't have enough discipline. I don't have enough intelligence. I don't have enough success. Well, then I'm going to make my child give me all of those things. So yeah, today, no, all of that, all served, all was perfect. And that is part of forgiveness. So thank you for asking that, because that's a really important thing. One is not better than the other. They were just different ways of parenting. But I would not have gotten to the one had I not seen the other. And that's where the contrast is so powerful. All right, so let's go to sentence number 3 here, still in paragraph number 2. So the idea of order of needs arose because, having made this fundamental error, you had already fragmented yourself into levels with different needs. When we are taught that, because we're fragmented, the ego operates in breaking things down into so many different personalities. So we've got the partner need, personality and it has its needs, and I need these things. The husband or the wife is supposed to meet these needs, and then there's the parental part, and we need to meet these needs, and the boss, the work, the society, and the church. We have fragmented ourselves into acceptable needs in various areas that don't allow us to question where these needs come from. Why do I need that job to be safe? Because my mind got trained into believing that money is what gets me safety. Where did that come from? Money doesn't grow on trees, so it's not a natural thing. Who made up money? Who decided how money operates? So we've got to get into the mind and really question, where did these needs arise from? Not so that we don't use money, but so that we can begin to understand, why do we fragment ourselves? Why at work maybe we're willing to lie to a customer, we're willing to lie to the boss to get the promotion, to claw over somebody else. I remember being in corporate America. I remember how we used to posture to get the promotion and look better than the co-worker, so that I could get that job or whatever it might be, or so that I could get that lead. So we have to look at all of the ways that we fragment ourselves, because when we fragment ourselves, we give ourselves permission to be very unlike love in different parts of our lives, very unlike kindness and honesty, when we allow ourselves to believe that because I have these needs and they need to be met, it's okay for me to behave in this way. And many of us at work don't know how we are at home, or at church. We don't know how we are, with our family. This is why people have these Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde personalities. This is why I remember hearing from some church ministers, do as I say, not as I do, because we all knew some things that they were doing, but that's not what they were teaching from the pulpit. So when we fragment ourselves and we have all of these different needs that we justify need to be filled by different ways, and if they're not something that society says it's okay, if it's not, for example, a priest that molests children because they're satisfying their sexual needs, but yet they're saying that they took a oath of celibacy because they love God. There are so many things that are absolutely not congruent when we fragment ourselves. And this is letting us know that we have fragmented ourselves into so many different levels, that we're not one congruent person. This is what more commonly, when we talk about psychology, we would call masks. We put on masks, the happy mask here, the professional mask over there. So the Course wants us to really get clear that we are overcompensating with all this fragmenting, with all these masks, because we don't know who we really are inside. If we knew we have God inside and we had a relationship with our own, and it's not with God, it's with I and the Father are one. I and the Father, Mother, Creative Source are one. Own the power that we have within. Own that we are the creator. We really, truly are powerful beyond measure. And we can't be honest and congruent as ourselves because we don't know ourselves. And once you know yourself, you don't need to have secrets. You don't fragment yourself. You are the same no matter where you go. And that you come to understand more easily when you begin to look at your needs. What are the needs that you have for these people, those situations, whatever it might be? Take an inventory of needs, and it's going to be very eye-opening if you're willing to really question, why do I need you? Why do I need this extra pair of shoes? Why do I need 47 purses? Why do I need to have the car parked in this side or that one? Why do I need to sleep in this side of the bed versus that one? Why do I need people to call me a certain thing? Why do I need to have a title? If we really question our needs, we're going to look at a lot of places where there are some insecurities. And if there's insecurities, it's because you don't know the source of who you are. Sentence number 4 says, I just want to make sure I complete this paragraph. As you integrate, you become one, and your needs become one accordingly. Unified needs lead to unified action, because this produces a lack of conflict. So that's one of the places where we see the word action. We are, our walk and our talk are not congruent unless we really truly come to know who we are. When we know that we are the creative source and so is everybody else, our kindness, our generosity. In the Course in Miracles, there's an entire section that speaks to the characteristics of one who walks with God. One that the Course calls it a teacher of God. They're teaching what they discovered they are. They're teaching that they are God because they are seeing everybody as God while they're learning that everybody is God through teaching that they are God. Because teaching and learning are the same thing in the Course in Miracles. We all teach what we need to learn. So when we begin to realize that who we are is the creative source, we will walk around. Our actions will be in alignment with our knowingness of who we are. Because when you know that you are God, you know, and God is love, once that gets connected, once we realize that this is the truth of who we are, we come from pure consciousness. When we know that we are consciousness, then all of a sudden the solidity begins to not be so solid. When we know that we are one with all that is, in our oneness, who would you allow to suffer? Because you know you're one with them. That just wouldn't be possible. When you understand that in our love, we experience a very deep serenity, a very deep peace inside. This is the peace that passes all understanding, because there's a sense of, I know I am complete in and of myself. And inside of that completion, I no longer have a need to take from somebody else. So I drop the bullying, I got to go get it from you, or the victimhood, I don't have enough, will you please give it to me? We drop those extremes and we move into a place of wholeness, into a place of completeness. And from that place, utilizing reason, we begin to do what are meaningful things, because we accept that everybody's doing the best that they can in a world that appears to have separate beings, because we came to play the game of separation. But we play the game of separation in harmony, because if ever we have a disharmonious thought, we can forgive ourselves. We don't drop below the line. When we know the truth of who we are, we stay at the higher vibration. This is the fifth dimension that we're moving toward, because humanity experienced the fall. We fell below the line. We stopped accepting one another. We stopped forgiving and creating harmony, because we started holding resentments. As we began to hold resentments, we began to little by little fall into the realm of the ego. And we began to hold resentments with one another, because we began to see somebody in a separate body that maybe got a bigger piece of the fruit than another, or maybe got two pieces of fruit than another. And the ego began to then go into comparison. And into comparison, to have comparison, there has to be separation. And if you're believing you're separate, then you justify selfishness, because then it is all about me. The ego is service to self alone. And that, when that happened to us over thousands and thousands of years, we have created systems of those who then we gave permission to be in charge. And of course, you give the fox the key to the hen house, you know what's going to happen. Because the human nature is one that devolves into total and complete selfishness. It is our divine nature that takes us up into the realms of our connection. So the Course needs us to understand we don't want to take action until we are aligned with Source inside, because from that place, all of our assistance would be to elevate. Never, ever, ever, ever to elevate us over somebody else, but to elevate them so that we all become equals. Right now, humanity is in need of those who have reached a certain level of peace, love, joy, to help bring everybody up, into reminding them you are powerful. You really, truly have God inside of you. And to Vern's point, we don't want to talk to people like you're a victim and you need me, and without me, you're not going to be okay, because that is oftentimes the message that countries with power sent to others. You are only going to be okay because I'm going to save you, so that then you owe me later on. And that's why so many countries have been devastated, because we have loaned to them money when they didn't really have the money to pay it back. We didn't teach them how to fish. We just gave them food for a day and then charged them a whole bunch of interest to pay us back for that food, and never taught them to fish. But today we can't teach anybody to fish because of all of the inherent dysfunctions that we have in our own country that we need to correct. And they're all surfacing, they're all coming up, because the time for ascension is now. This is the decade. This decade is the final decade in density. This is the final decade where the ego has power over those who are committed to be part of the ascension, because the ascension is about equality. We're moving. Now it's going to be a little slow process to get there, because we got to change. People's minds have to change. But to get there, we're going to get there faster when we see that what is not working. Why? Because we've been doing the same thing, expecting different results. And for me, one of the big reasons I was absolutely not going to vote for the current administration is because I didn't want to vote for the same old thing that I knew was going to give us the same results. And here we are doing the same thing, the same dysfunction. So we have got to be willing to try something new, to move beyond where we've been, because we're going to a place that we've been to at a soul level, but we haven't experienced as humans. So it feels scary to move into a place where we're helping one another. That's why some of us are in the gift economy, because we understand that helping one another is a beautiful thing. But so many people don't get that. They're afraid. They don't think they can trust other people. And people don't trust a system of equality, a system of in a circle we all give and receive equally. People are not used to that. So those who begin to feel the connection with source within and feel generous of spirit, feel kind and honest, can begin to show what that looks like in our own lives. And the action that we take in embodying that really shows the world something very different. And then next week we'll keep talking more about that, and more how that action is going to look out in the world, because there are actually people taking action right now. They just may not be doing it under a spiritual guise, because you don't have to be spiritual to know God. That's just the doorway that we entered into, knowing about God and through the spiritual realm. But a lot of people come to God through nature. A lot of people come to God through art. A lot of people come to God through religion. A lot of people come to God through meditation. Lots of different ways to come to God. I have actually talked to some people who came to God through cancer. People came to God through politics, who were totally disenfranchised with what they saw. And then all of a sudden they had an epiphany. Oh my gosh, this is what I need to do. So it's lots of ways to come to God, but come to God we must if we are going to ascend. So let me stop there and make myself a note of where we are here, so I can come back to it next week. And I want to hear, quite a few had to drop off, so we got a smaller group here. Lots of people will be watching the rerun. Those of you who are here, any nuggets, any thoughts, anything that you gleaned from today's conversation, I would appreciate if you unmute yourself and share, please.
I'll share, Laina.
Thank you, Kathy.
So, it really struck me when I was thinking about what are the needs that I am looking at others for. And, I think it's just so unconscious, in your relationship with your husband or your mate or your children. I never really thought about that. What are the needs that I'm making them responsible for? And if I am responsible, how does that shift and change our relationship? So that's really one of the big things that I'm going to dig into. And, the space of coming from a place of victimization and being more aware of what that looks like for me, and how I can shift that and recognize it when it shows up in my life. So those are the things that really landed with me that I'm going to focus on.
And those are, you're going to be digging deep, sister, by going there. With the needs part, something that I did with my kids, and their dad, because I was still married to their dad when I began this journey, and I began to really dive deep into understanding my ego. When I was looking at what were these needs that I had that I was holding people responsible for, I made a decision. I want to be free of all of my egoic constructs, and I became completely vulnerable. I was willing to let them help me grow, even though many times it was very uncomfortable. But I went to them and I said to them, if I have an underlying need that I've got to have you complete, that I have to have you fulfill, chances are I don't even, like you said, it's unconscious. I don't know about it. So the way that I posed it to them was, I want you to let me know when I'm trying to control you, that you're feeling controlled, because that's the same thing. An unconscious need is a form of manipulation. So when and boy, they did not have a shortage of letting me know, Mom, you're trying to control how I look. You're trying to control what I eat. You're trying to control when I come, when I go, who I can be with, what I can do, and it was really fascinating, absolutely fascinating. Mom, you're controlling what I'm talking. You're controlling what I can say. And it got to the point. I mean, it was a very excruciating. It was a period of a couple of years to really unearth a lot of things. But thank goodness my family was so gracious and loving, and we would have our blow ups about Mom being controlling. And then on the other side there was, but Mom, we know your heart is in the right place. We know you love us. So it was like, please forgive me, correcting, changing, shifting, and coming to the place where I let them know, I do not want you to be responsible for any of my joy, none whatsoever, because that's not fair on you to be responsible for my joy. But then it keeps me from knowing how to access my own joy. It's not fair to me either. So it's a total unplugging from the matrix, and not easy, but it's so rewarding when people then all of a sudden we're free to be in each other's presence. We don't watch what we say. We Nobody has agenda. My kids and I, there is zero agenda between us, and it's absolutely beautiful. And my kids share everything. I share everything with my kids because it's such an equals relationship. It's really absolutely wonderful because there are no hidden agendas, and freedom. Thank you for that.
Absolutely. I
Let me
feel
know.
that with my older kids, the challenge, I think, for me is going to be, with the 12-year-old who having that balance between filling my needs and recognizing, okay, these are some boundaries as a child who doesn't have all the knowledge yet and might want to just eat candy 24/7. Mom, so really going for guidance on what is best and highest uh, for the child and releasing my ego around that. That's really my goal.
Yeah, and it's the conversations with the younger one, because I had to have the same conversations with my kids. So you want all this candy. Then we sat down and said, okay, the reason I don't want you to have candy and I control that is a couple of things. One, it's unhealthy for you, so it's going to affect your body. The other one is you might get cavities, and guess what? I don't want to pay. I don't want to spend money on cavities. I don't care if you have your teeth drilled and you have to sit through the discomfort of having a needle put in your mouth. That's okay. I don't feel that, but I feel the pain of the money. I got to pay for that. So we sat down and we talked about it. Okay, you want to keep eating candy if it makes you sluggish. If you're going to have to go to the dentist and you've got cavity, you're going to have to pay for it. So we began to shift responsibility so that everybody would feel like they had an equal say when it became age appropriate.
Right.
And I would ask my children, do you like to feel healthy? Do you like to feel vibrant? Do you like to feel good? One of my sons was in track. Do you like track? Yeah, I love it. Well, okay, you like track and you want to do that, but you're eating crap. How is this going to help you succeed there? Well, yeah, I should eat better food. Well, if you don't eat better food, just know you're not running track to make me look good anymore. That I gave up those days. So you're running track as and whatever you get, you get. I don't want to hear any complaints about ending in second place or third place or whatever. And we made a deal. They don't complain about what they don't achieve because they own that they got what they got because of what they put into it. So little by little, everybody began to take full responsibility for what they wanted to do, to the point that I gave myself permission to not pay for things for them that I didn't feel like paying for them. Where for my daughter, I did pay for them because it was a form of, I can control you. Mm-hmm. But with the boys, it was like, no, we're not going to do that. And it really became powerful conversations where everybody was feeling like an equal. And I would remind them that I am the mom, so I still will have final say. But just because I've had more experience than you being on this planet, but it doesn't mean that what I'm doing is what's right for you, but it may just very well be what I think is right for me at the time, based on what I know. So I little by little began to let them know, I don't know everything. I've just been here a little longer. And little by little, we actually began to cultivate a relationship where they wanted to hear what I had to say. Mom, what do you think might be the consequence of this thing? Because that was the other thing. We never, and Philip was really good about this too, my kid's dad. We didn't say to the kids, you can't do this, you can't do that. We would say, you're going to have to live with the consequences of those choices. So think about the consequence, not the immediate thing. So you're going to go out drinking. Think about the consequence. If you get in the car, you're drunk, and somebody gets hurt and somebody dies, or somebody gets, what's the consequence for getting in the car drunk? Can you live with that consequence? If you can live with the consequence of a friend dying, go for it. But if that's not a consequence you want to live with, call us before you get into the car and you're drunk. We'll come pick you up. And we made it really clear to our kids, you're never going to be punished for asking for help, ever, ever. Call me 3:00 in the morning. You're drunk, Mom, come pick me up. I can't drive. No questions asked. We'll come get you. Because we wanted them to really feel like we were not trying to control them, but we were helping them learn that all consequences were ultimately theirs. And that just became such a totally different parenting that way than the way I did with Lauren. It was a partnership. I realized these are gurus, they're holy beings. They came down, I'm down here, they're above me in consciousness. So I was like, okay, how can we work together? Because I got a lot to learn from you guys. So it was one of my needs, learning from my children. But I made it pretty open that I needed to learn from them. Well, thank you all so much. If anybody else wants to just unmute yourself so you can say goodbye, and then we'll connect next week. I'm going to go see my grandson tomorrow. I'm super excited. At this time tomorrow, I'll be holding a baby in Colorado.
Yay! Yay!
Did you get some nuggets today?
Oh gosh, yeah. But I think I'm going to need a call with you. How long are you going to be gone?
I'm going to be gone till Monday.
Okay. All right.
Just text me. We'll figure something out. I can still talk to you while I'm there.
Okay. All right. Have a wonderful trip. I know you will.
Share a nugget that you got today, please.
Well, it's part of the realization. When I was in Florida with my daughter, Vanessa, and the two kids that I adore. I realized that I was not loving myself the way I should. And I was allowing her to be very disrespectful and to be really abrupt and rude. And I pulled her aside and I said, I thought we could have a normal talk or so without her getting upset and raising her voice and sort of yelling at me. I called her in my bedroom so the kids couldn't hear, hopefully, and said, all I want for you, what I want is respect and kindness. If you could just give me those two things. And she couldn't, she didn't, and she couldn't. So what I've realized is that's basically toxic, that relationship. And what I realized, I meditated on it, I prayed on it, and I had this epiphany because I was speaking to Holy Spirit, and it was like, it just came out of it. It's like, how long it's going to take you to learn this lesson? Those exact words from Holy Spirit. How long are you going to allow this to go on? It's like, oh my God. So I'm done. And yet I need some guidance on how to approach that. But I'm seriously done with that. So anyway.
Well, but here's the beautiful thing. She couldn't give you respect and kindness because you were not giving them to yourself. So you finally got that everything is a projection. And now when you're kind and respectful to yourself and you set up whatever boundaries you need, she'll begin to shift. Don't think about it. Don't think you know it. There is an opportunity for her to shift because you will not be the same person she can plug into to get her juice. Once you unplug, she's going to have to find that somewhere else. And if she wants to have a relationship with you, she's going to have to ascend.
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. And I don't want to talk to you about it, but you're right. You're totally right. It was lack of love on my part for myself.
Exactly.
And that's exactly what Holy Spirit was saying to me.
Yeah, totally. So congratulations. I'm glad you discovered that. It's about time.
In time.
How long have you been her mother?
So love is the answer. Now, what was the question?
Oh my God.
Yes. No questions if you know the answer. Thank you all so much for being here. I so appreciate you all.
Thank you, Laina. I enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Great conversation.
Bye, everybody.
I'm having lunch with Crystal Friday.
Oh, have fun. Enjoy it. He's looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. All right. Have a good trip.
Care.
We'll talk to you later.
Bye-bye.